Well, hey, everybody, glad to be back with you again. Today's topic is the importance of your mindset and how to coach yourself to growth. Sounds like an inside job, David.
Is that important? I don't know. Does that? I don't know. Is that
Well,
something that
here's the
think
thing,
it
right?
is?
Like, even within the topic, as I'm thinking about this today, there's been several people, I'll say, or organizations I've been connected to recently where they want other people to cause their growth instead of owning it.
I
They
know
want
those
other people.
people.
They want
I
other
know
people
some
to
of those
do it.
people.
Yeah, they want other people to do it for them.
Right.
And I've had this conversation with a few different people and about how this is part of the biggest problem, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs that are starting out, that are experts in a certain category area, whatever it may be. And it's like they're really good at teaching, coaching, training, whatever it may be, but they don't know how to necessarily build the business or market their business, and so they want somebody. And I remember being in this space quite a especially at the beginning of my journey, where I was like, if I could just get somebody to be my promoter, if I could just get somebody to do this or that. And so I wanted somebody else to grow my business, but it did take an inside look for me to realize after several years of frustration and resistance, I'll say, that what, I've got to take ownership of the growth of my business. I had to take ownership. And so that was the inside job. That was me coaching myself, finally going, okay, I have to, I can't just depend on somebody else. I have to truly have the right mindset about, marketing and sales and being able to promote what I do.
Well, and I think there's two perspectives on it. And I think this is where a lot of people get off. Is there's the just getting started person who's just kind of getting their business built and getting things in place and getting momentum, and then there's the people who have highly established businesses with people, lots of people working for them.
Right.
So what ends up happening is these people are just kind of getting their business rolling and going, eventually start talking to the people who already have the established businesses.
Yeah.
And the people with the established businesses are like, well, I have a person that does my marketing, or I have an agency that does all my ads or marketing, or I have these people that handle all my financial things, and I have that, and the person's over there going, what? Like, you have people do it all for you? And it sounds like this illusion of, wow, I could just have my business, but have everyone else do the work.
Yeah.
And in the early days, here's especially when you're first getting started, is you really don't have much of a business. Like
Right.
when you're first getting started, you don't have a lot of income, you don't have a lot of clients, and you don't have the cash flow to support teams of people that are going to require thousands of dollars each every
Right.
month to do all these things for you. So yes, at the beginning, especially, and it is, you have to do it, and it's to your best interest
Yeah.
to do this, because if you won't market yourself and your own business and what you're doing, no one
Yeah.
else is going to care more about doing it than you.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I think that's a great point, because I think that's what a lot of us early on in particular miss. And you're right. It's like comparing a solopreneur business to a corporation that's got divisions and departments and all this stuff. And here's the problem that I've discovered for some people coming out of the corporate space where they have all that, there's an expectation of this is just how it's done. But now all of a sudden, like we've talked about on this show previously, you are the marketing department, you are the finance department, you are the sales department, you're all these things when you're the solopreneur or a small business owner many times, until you can grow, to your point. And to me, entrepreneurship is an amazing journey for anybody to go down. We've talked about that repeatedly in this series of episodes over the years. But so much of the game is won between our ears, inside our head. And you've really, focused on that at times, and how that's such a vital part, but it's also maybe an overlooked part or a missed part in this journey. And so today we just want to discuss how to coach yourself to growth by, giving close attention to the thoughts that are going on inside your head. And really the first thing, David, that I thought about in this is, really committing to consistent reflection, where giving yourself that space to think or to pray, to really just reflect on, where am I at now? Where do I want to go? What have I done? How's that going? Giving us that white space, so to speak, in our calendar to really think about things. Because I think as an entrepreneur, it's easy to be busy but not necessarily productive or busy, and just kind of you don't slow down enough to think about the business and to think about what's working, what's not working. And I know that when I've done that, it's been transformational for me, but it's easy to fall into that trap of just grinding away. Would you agree?
100%. I know one of the um, things that I've thought about a lot is there are times when you just take an afternoon and just I just need to think. I need to stop
Mhm.
work because especially in your early days, you get very focused on, well, I need to do this. I need to focus on this. I need to do that. I need to do that. And all the tasks that are lined up in front of you. And you get so busy working in the business that you don't stop to work on the business. And
Right.
having those moments of reflection where you stop, you pause yourself and you go, what should I be doing here? Should I
Yeah.
be doing this? Should
Yeah.
I be doing something different? And this is why even, I always love being a part of other groups of entrepreneurs, like being in a
Yeah.
mastermind or being in with other entrepreneurs, because it allows you to hear different thoughts and to reflect on your own situation, to pull yourself out of the daily grind and to take some
Mhm.
time once in a while to just think like, huh, maybe there is a better way to do this. And so instead of me continuing to get frustrated with like, I got to do this and it's not working well, but it's got to get done. And, and then hearing someone else's perspective or just having some time to clear your head, like you said,
Yeah.
and just having that white space to just be like, I can just pause and actually just think big picture about
Mhm.
what needs to happen here and how do I need to approach things differently. And it does come to that point where you realize that your biggest blockades in your business are more than likely you,
Yeah.
and how you're approaching things, how you're doing things, and you have to work that out. You have to work out how are you going to do this to the best of your ability and make this happen. So
Yeah. There was an accountant, a CPA that I knew several years ago. I think he moved out of state a little while ago, but I remember talking to him one time. He'd been in the business, I don't know, 25, 30 years or more. And he was like, you know what I do, Chris? He's like, every Monday morning, I just have a legal pad and a pen, and I sit in my thinking chair, is kind of what he called it, in his office. And he said, for the first hour of my day on Monday, that's all I have. And he said, in those first few minutes of just trying to get my mind going, he's like, it's ugly. He's like, but as I kind of just keep writing down ideas or thoughts and everything, he's like, eventually things start to really pop and hit. And, I
mhm.
start to get, good ideas, or I start to, so his was a very intentional part of his schedule to reflect. And it was a Monday morning activity, business activity for him that brought great results for him down the road. And so I think as entrepreneurs, that's one of the things to think about is this, and especially like I know for myself, this is where this kind of time, this kind of space feels like a waste of time sometimes to me. And I have to remind myself, no, this is actually extremely valuable because strategizing and thinking is actually will help me be better long term rather than just getting busy grinding away any given day. And yet it's a discipline to do this, especially for somebody like me. Now, there's other people who I'll say are more introverted. You tend to think and reflect more naturally. That's not me, so I have to really work at it.
Mhm.
Other people where it's more natural, you have to be careful, probably overthinking and over reflecting on one. So there's got to be a good balance here. But I think this, like, that looking back so that you can then plan ahead is really important.
Well, and I know there's lots of successful leaders who will, like once a month, either take a half day or a full day and block that day off and say, nope, no one
Yeah.
can schedule a meeting with me. I'm not taking any calls. I'm not working on any work in the traditional sense. I'm going to
Mhm.
go and I'm going to put myself in a more, isolated, quiet space.
Yeah.
I'm going to get myself out of the normal run
Mhm.
and put myself in a much more calm, secluded place where I can just be at peace and calm and quiet and think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just like you're saying, writing thoughts down, just starting to envision different ways of approaching problems that you're facing, different strategies that you might use to grow your business, different things that you
Mhm.
can do, and to just get out of your space. And I think
Yeah.
some of that, reflection time, it's very valuable to get into a space where you feel like I can think here. Like
Yeah.
there's not a lot of distractions. There's not a lot of noise, not a lot of people and things running around. My phone's, put your phone away. Don't let it
Yeah.
distract you with messages that are going on. But find that space where you can go and just,
Hmm.
be left alone and be able to clear your head and think.
And I know for me, like even this just happened a couple days ago where I didn't have a busy afternoon and I forced myself to stop working here in my office and just kind of rest, first of all. But there's the other side of it where just getting out of this, office space, it makes your mind start to be able to process things differently. I can't tell you how many good ideas or thoughts I've had mowing the lawn just because it's a mix of, schedule where I'm like, I'm just not thinking about work, so to speak, but then something really pops up like, oh, that's a really good idea or something I ought to consider. So, some people it's taking a walk. Some people, there's another guy I know who literally he writes a lot of content. So for him, he's like, I do a lot of kind of trail hiking in the woods and I take my journal with me and I just jot down ideas while I'm hiking because he's like, that's where I can get the best ideas and the best thoughts. And so there's different ways to do this. How, this is very personal, where some people would simply, I just need a quiet space in my house or my office. For other people, it's I truly need to get away from the house or the office and get out into nature, or go somewhere else. Whatever that looks like for you, do it. But just make time for this, block time for this. Like you said, David, just whether it's an hour, whether it's a half day, a full day, build a rhythm into your schedule of doing this and you'll reap great benefits. And then you alluded to something about the importance of your people, the people being around people that can truly inspire you. And that's really our second thought here is getting around those supportive, like-minded people, because we just get tunnel vision, right? We can get very locked into our own mind and see things. We have one perspective, but when you're around two or three or 10 other people, whether it's a mastermind group like I know you've been a part of, or whether it's conferences that you go to, just getting in the conversations with others is huge. And so why don't you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I just know, like for me, I remember years ago when I first joined my first big mastermind, and it was 25K a year. And you're
Mhm.
like, that's a lot of money just to hang out with a bunch of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But as soon as you got in it, what happened was you realized this is some of the best money I could have spent.
Mm.
And because when you have, especially, and I wouldn't recommend that unless you're already having a business that's.
Right. You didn't do that. You didn't do that in the early days.
No, I did not do that in the early days. I did that when the business was already several $1,000,000 a year and looking to grow. But what it did for me was, it got me around other people who were, because when you realize is that entrepreneurs are a lot like eagles. They're definitely out there. They're flying around, but you don't see them in groups a lot.
Hmm.
They're much more solitary because they're the ones starting, leading, building, and they bring other people around them in the process. But when you all of a sudden can get in a room full of eagles that you're all doing the same thing, we're all running businesses together, we're all working on the same type of things, we're all
Yeah.
leading our companies. All of a sudden, you have all these people who have similar perspectives, even if they have different businesses. We all have very similar perspectives, and we're solving similar problems. And what
Yeah.
I realized is how I was like, how many ideas do I need to take from here for me to make a $25,000 difference in the business?
Right.
Not a lot. You
Right.
know, I did not need to walk out of that room with a lot of new ideas to make one tweak for a several $1,000,000 business, to make one tweak to make up 25 grand. Now that wasn't going to be that hard.
Right.
We could do that fairly easily and quickly. And having that perspective, being around those people, because yes, it is, you're going to get insights from those people. And that was
Hmm.
why here recently I went down to, Nashville to go spend some time with a bunch of other
Hmm.
business owners again for a couple days. Because again, COVID kind of knocked all that out and stopped everything. But I was like, now I need to get back to doing something like this. And just going through that process, it's irreplaceable because you get perspectives from people that understand your journey.
Yeah.
And most people aren't entrepreneurs. Most people are not business owners. And as a
Mhm.
result, when you start talking about the struggles that you're going through in your business or whatever, most people just look at you and go, I don't get
They
it.
can't identify.
can't identify, and they can't even relate exactly to the journey you're going through. So finding those like-minded people,
Yeah.
people on similar journeys who all again, it was like walking when I walked into that mastermind, it was like walking into a room and going, I found my people. Here they are. Like all this time, I felt like I was, the one bird flying around here by myself, and all of a sudden, hey, I found a whole flock of them, and I'm like, this is amazing.
But
And,
Well, I was going to
but
say, but I also think a very important part of this is putting yourself in a room that you're not the smartest person in the room, because, I've heard John Maxwell say, like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, because especially when you're thinking about growth and moving forward, because that's where, and it's a weird feeling, right? Like I remember just several years ago, I remember feeling this probably for the first time, where I'm like, I was in a room with people that I looked up to, that they were ahead of me. They were doing, and I would learn a lot from them. And all of a sudden I felt like something was off. And I realized I've passed a lot of these people because I've kept moving forward and pushing. A lot of them kind of just plateaued and stopped. They just kept showing up to the same room, but they really weren't growing. They really weren't advancing. And I felt like the room that was the right room for me is no longer the right room. And it wasn't that the people weren't great people, but I'm like, I need to be around people who are going to really challenge my thinking, that are going to challenge my approaches, that are going to ask me the hard questions or help me think about things differently. So when you find these people, don't beware of that just group think, because I know there can be, and there are a lot of like entrepreneurial groups or circles where people just sit around and kind of complain about the state of things rather than being solution oriented or problem solvers. And it's like, yeah, there are problems that we all have to face all the time, but I want to be with people that are going to say, hey, have you thought about this? Or have you thought about that? Or I tried this and figured that out, versus let's just gripe about, the economy's not right, or this isn't good, or all that stuff it may make you feel good in the moment that you're not alone, but it doesn't help you grow and advance. And so I don't know, have you walked into that kind of a situation before?
yeah, I mean, if I walk into a situation where it's the moan and groan club, where it's the complain train, just walk out. I
Yeah.
just am like, nope, not for me. Because one thing I know about true entrepreneurs, true good entrepreneurs, is they're problem solvers.
Hmm.
Is that part of this journey? And this is like where you're talking about coaching yourself to growth. Part of this journey is that you realize that every problem can be solved.
Yeah.
And you have to have that switch go off in your mind. Like if you're in the group with there's a bunch of people that are just like, well, it's just problems, it's just problems, it's just problems. They haven't made the switch yet
Yeah.
to saying, I'm not going to sit here and let those problems stop me. I'm going to look at those problems and go, okay, how can I solve them?
Right.
How can I solve that problem? How can I fix this? How can I fix that? And now how can we overcome those problems and keep going?
Yeah.
And the more you get into this journey, the better you are at solving problems. The more advanced you get, the better you've become at solving problems. And so, yes, you want to get into that room like it is. If it's a bunch of complaining, yep, I don't take very long to find the exit door and just excuse myself and go, yep,
Yeah.
not the right room. So I'll move
Well,
on.
and we've talked in the past, but I know for me it's been a reality where it took me a while to get this, but that whole phrase of the obstacle is the way. A lot of times, the problem is the way forward, because if you solve that problem, then you do take your business to the next level. You have growth, you have success, and so the question isn't how can I rid myself of this problem and not deal with it. It's how do I solve that problem, to your point, and how do I grow and get stronger because of that problem? And I remember a speaker years ago saying, it's like going to the gym and lifting up weights and going, I'm not doing this. These things are heavy. And you just walk out of the gym. It's like, well, yeah, they are heavy, and they're supposed to be heavy because those weights give you strength and help you build. So in business, the problems really become the weights that you're going through. Because if you don't know how to do something, if you don't know how to solve this problem, then you're learning. This is probably one of my biggest pet peeves, David, and I don't want to go on a rant here, but I am so tired of people asking me to do, or asking me for answers that they could have Googled themselves, or they haven't tried anything yet. It's one thing if somebody said, you know what, I've been looking this up, I've been trying to figure this out, I can't find an answer. Okay, I'm with you. I can help. Let's dig into this together.
Right.
But when somebody just isn't willing to do the work themselves to even try, that bothers me so much, because for me it's not just about, it does annoy me, don't get me wrong, that's maybe it's a character flaw for me, but the other side of it is I also know that by them not digging into it and trying to figure it out, they're also hindering themselves for their future success and growth. And there's so many things, like when I started my business, I didn't know how to build websites. I mean, that's your story too. Like, we both figured these things out along the way. And yet, you know what I did? I started building websites and trying to figure out and learning and Googling or looking things on YouTube or whatever it may have been to find answers. And guess what? Now I don't need help building websites.
Right.
That's a very elementary thing for me today because I've done the work. But somebody that refuses to do that isn't going to even know, sometimes, like, okay, somebody's built your website, but can you manage it? Can you log in? And so it's sometimes it feels, but now they feel like simple things to me, right? But back in the day, they felt like huge mountains to climb. But by plowing ahead and trying new things and getting in rooms that people gave me ideas or thoughts of how to do this or showed me how to do something, now that becomes like a core skill of mine that I can build on even more. But so many people just aren't willing to try, and they're afraid of breaking something or failing or whatever. And so, folks, we just want to encourage you, get around people that are going to challenge you and push you and really, not let you off the hook, and don't be in that complain train room that Dave is talking about.
Yeah, I agree. People are always looking for the easy answer, and people then become dependent on someone else. And I know exactly what you're talking about, because I have people do that to me all the time, because they know I know a lot of the technical things and how to make things work there. And so people aren't making the effort and aren't trying, and then just saying, well, David, do it for me. I'm like, no, this is not good. This is not healthy. This is not going to make you a better person. It's like, you used a gym reference earlier, and you made me laugh because my trainer actually a long time ago sent me a meme that said, going to the gym used to be hard. Then I discovered the lighter weights. a little bit of this is that, like, you become the lighter weight for them. Oh, I don't have to do the work of trying to discover this and figure it out myself. I'll just go ask Chris, and I'll just go ask someone else to go do it for me and show me how to do it. But you're not ever getting the skill.
Right.
You're not building your skill. And it's the same thing like going to the gym. If you go to the gym all the time and you're lifting 5 pounds, 5 pounds, look at me go, I'm just killing it. And it's just like, you're never going to get stronger. You're never going to get any better. And I always, again, I joke with my trainer because I'm like, you remove all confidence, don't you? Because as soon as I hit a weight and it's starting to feel like it's going easier, and I'm like, I've kind of stepped up to that. I'm like, hey, this is going pretty good. Okay, we'll fix that. Bam, slap more weight on it. I'm like, you suck so bad. I had a small moment in there where actually this wasn't that hard, and you fixed it. Now it's hard again. But
so much of this, right, is about a growth mindset, even in the gym, right? It's, what is your goal? Because a lot of people have, Mount Everest goals, but they have a molehill work ethic or a molehill mindset of, any bump in the road really throws us off. And, that's something that I think we're going to talk about in future episodes about how big of a problem or how big of an obstacle is actually going to take you off course. And so this whole idea, though, folks, is when you get around people that are that next level, that are doing things that you have, maybe you don't even know exist sometimes. You get into a conversation, you're like, somebody's talking about something, you're like, wait a second, what are you even talking about? And so when they explain that to you, or they share their experiences with you, and you're like, didn't even think about that, wouldn't have thought about that had I not stepped into that room. So we have to get out of our bubble that are comfortable. And this is part of the challenge, I think, is along the way, I think in entrepreneurship, we build a lot of great relationships because we do step into rooms like this. We do go to conferences, we do go to masterminds or trainings, and we meet a lot of great people. But we can't outgrow those people. And it doesn't mean you don't stay friends with them. That's the one the relationship doesn't have to die. What we're saying here is you need to make sure you're putting yourself, when you're talking about business growth, into rooms that are going to continue to challenge you. And when you're saying yes to things that maybe you're a little scared of, even of, I need to grow in this area and I'm intimidated. I don't know if I can do this or should do this. My greatest growth has come from saying yes to things that actually I've been intimidated by, but I knew it was the right thing to do. And I was actually at a speaking engagement this past week, and if I, years ago, that what feels comfortable to me now, I thought about this. I'm walking into this place. I'm walking, like, I go in, do a 45-minute presentation, walk out. I felt great about the whole experience. I remember the butterflies. I remember the angst. I remember all the feelings that I used to feel when I would go to places like that, because I'm like, am I in the right space? It's all the imposter syndrome stuff that hits you when you're going into spaces. But that's because of growth. That's because of putting myself out there in that speaking realm, to keep, putting myself to places that I'm like, this is going to stretch me. And as a business person, we have to put ourselves in those rooms with people that are going to stretch us. And so whether it is speaking, whether it's a mastermind like you talked about that you've been a part of, David, sometimes it's just, for me, it's simply been around people that talk about business, because like you said, the average person doesn't do this as an entrepreneur. So, not to belabor this whole point, but get into the right spaces, folks. Get into it so that you can really take that next step and level up, because the relationships and the people you're around.
And I think what you're saying is really important, because here's the reality is, like, if you have that mindset that we talked about earlier, is like, I want someone else to do it for me. Or even at the beginning of when we started talking about how I want to build my business, but I want someone else to do the marketing. I want someone else to do this. I want someone else to do that. It's going to be hard, because here's and I understand we all have strengths. We all have our lanes where we're really good. And sometimes collaboration is a good answer to help someone fill some of the gaps. But the reality is, taking that approach of, I want someone else to do it for me. Again, it's like going to the gym and saying, hey, can you lift weights for me? You're not going to get any healthier. You're not going to get any stronger. You're not going to improve yourself. And it's the same thing in your business.
Yeah.
You have to have that growth mindset. You have to be willing to challenge yourself. You have to be willing to put yourself in those rooms that Chris is talking about, where you're not the smartest person in the room. And you honestly feel a little like, should I be here? Because these people are over my head.
Yeah.
But you also have to face that moment where you go, this is what I need.
Yeah.
I need to learn this. If I'm going to make it and I'm going to learn how, and I'm going to be successful, I need to learn this skill. Right. I need to get better at this. And again, you just start in that room and you just start soaking up every little thing that you can. Mm-hmm. And even if a lot of it goes over your head, you just stay there and you just keep learning and learning and learning. And slowly but surely, those little pieces start to come together. You're like, oh, okay, I understand this and this now. Okay, now I get a couple more pieces to the puzzle. And next thing you know, you're building out the puzzle a lot more. But you have to be willing to push yourself. You have to be willing to put yourself in those spots, and you have to be willing to, for lack of a better word, humble yourself.
Yeah, I was thinking that exact word.
I'm willing to sit here and admit I don't know what I'm doing in this area. I don't understand it. I don't know it, but it's important. And I'm willing to sit here and humble myself to sit here and start at the bottom and work my way up the hill to try and get better at this and build skill. Because once you have the skill, it doesn't get taken away from you. And that's where you become such a better business owner. That's where you become so much more successful, because that's what I'm saying is, like, now all these problems are coming at you, but because you built skill in all these areas, you can look at that problem. I can solve that. I can handle that. I know what to do with that, because you built this skill inside of yourself. You've built yourself as a human being in your skills, in your attitudes, in your personal abilities. You've developed so many things inside of you that now you can look at it and go, I got it. I can handle it. And, you've heard me in the past, Chris, talk about, the real question about how successful you're going to be in life is, how big of a rock does it take to make you fall? Right. And make you stumble. And in your early days of our journeys, it doesn't take a very big rock at all. We're stumbling and falling all the time.
Right.
because it doesn't take a very big problem. Rocks are just problems. How big of a problem does it take to stop you?
Yeah.
Or to make you fall and get hurt. Well, as you develop more skill, you can look at those rocks and go, that ain't nothing. I'm just stepping right over that rock. It don't stop
Yeah.
me at all anymore. I know how to get around it.
Yeah.
And then it takes a really big boulder to stop you at that point, because you can navigate all the small ones, and now you're able to be far more successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I get excited now to go into the rooms where I feel like the dumbest person in the room, because I'm like, I want to be around smart people that are going to challenge me. But it takes a growth mindset. And to your point, it takes humility of saying, I don't have something to walk in here and try to prove. And I think that's where people get in trouble is I'm walking into a room that I'm intimidated by, but I still got to feel like I've got to prove something. So I'm going to go in and so there's not humility. It's more, it's ego and arrogance that are really at play. And so just be
Right.
careful of that, folks. Go in and you don't have to, bash yourself. And actually that kind of shifts to our last point here of, giving yourself grace. Give yourself grace to be on this journey of growth and saying, I don't even know what I don't know sometimes, right? Like it's unconscious incompetence is what, some people say. It's like, I don't know what I don't know. But then as you start getting in those rooms, you start, really doing the task of your business, you start to figure out these skills or these things. And you're like, now I do know a few things. Now I'm not really good at them, but I at least know what I'm doing. That becomes a conscious incompetence that leads to the unconscious competence. And then to some point, like you said, David, there comes a day where it's like it's unconscious competence where you're like, I don't even think about it anymore, because now what used to be hard and I didn't even know how to do that. Now I do it like, it takes me 2 minutes to do this thing. But all that comes because you've given yourself grace and you've put yourself in places to grow with the right attitude, the right mindset. And you've said, you know what, I'm gonna do the hard things. I'm gonna do the uncomfortable things along the way. But here's the part about grace is being careful what you say to yourself and taking care of yourself in the journey, because we can beat ourselves up if things aren't going right. I mean, when something goes awry, I even felt this here today. I had something come up where I'm like, can I even do this? Like, I started to doubt myself again. I'm like, wait a second. And I was like, time out. Like I've built this up to this point. I just need to figure out how to go from where I am now. Because at one point I was at 0 and then I got to this. Well, how do I now get from this to this? That I have to figure that out, just like I had to figure out 0 to here out. And that's giving yourself grace and realizing I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm going to basically be my own cheerleader.
Yeah, I agree 100%, because you don't want to feel foolish. No one wants to feel dumb or foolish,
Mhm.
and as a result, no one wants to put themselves in those spots where they're going to be looking dumb or foolish, and so you don't want to go there. And again, just to yeah, I mean, as you're talking, I think about things in business. I think about those early days in the gym when I first started going. And when I first started going to the gym, I fully admit I was at the bottom of the hill. Like
Mhm.
I could do very, very little. There was not a lot of stuff that I could do. And um, I started doing stuff, and I was just like even embarrassed to go to the gym, because you'd be on one machine doing this with very little weight, and you look at the person next to you and they're doing the exact same exercise with a whole lot of weight, and you're going, okay, just
Yeah.
and you feel embarrassed that, like, this is all I can do, and this is all I got. But then you realize after a while, I was like, nobody's looking, are they? Because this is all this is all I got right now. I can't
Mhm.
lift anymore. This is the best I can do. And I always had that moment of like feeling embarrassed or ashamed.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to even hardly go to the gym, but I just kept going because I'm like, well, you got to get better. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
get worse, because you're just at
Right.
the beginning. But one of the day I had this realization that you're like, you know what? It doesn't matter, because no one's looking at me anyway.
Right.
They're all looking at the girls in the tight little yoga outfits. No one's looking at me at all. It doesn't. I can do whatever I want over here, and it
Right.
gave me that freedom. And I think it feels the same way when you're in a group. It's just have that free. You go into these groups and you're afraid of looking foolish. You go
Yeah.
into a group of people who are smarter than you, and you're afraid of, like, oh, I'm going to say something dumb and they're all going to know I don't know what I'm talking about. At the end of the day, You have to have the same realization, just like in the gym where no one's looking at me because they're all looking at the young, pretty girls over there.
Right.
They're not thinking about you in that room either.
Yeah.
When you're in that room, they're not sitting going, huh, look at that Chris guy. I mean, he doesn't know what he's doing, does he?
Yeah.
No one's thinking that. They're all thinking about their own stuff.
Yeah.
They're all thinking about their own businesses. They're all thinking about their own situations. They're not thinking about you. So take the pressure off of yourself.
Yeah.
And just relax and just go on your journey.
Well, and even as you're talking about this, it's making me,
great.
yeah, it's making me think about when that happens, right? In your gym illustration, at that point, you're comparing like your phase 1 to their phase 10
Right.
of development. So the person next to you lifting all those weights, that's not day 1 for them.
No.
But we think that like this is, to me, this is a symptom of our social media, internet so saturated world. Is we compare our day 1 or day 3 to somebody else's day 10 or year 30. And it's like, well, why should I expect myself at phase 1 to be where that person is that's been doing this for 5, 10, 20 plus years? And yet that's what we do, and it hit me one time because, for me, my journey began by joining the John Maxwell team, the Maxwell Leadership Organization. And it hit me one time. I'm like, you know what? I'm actually farther ahead in some ways from my business development than John Maxwell was at my age. Not because he didn't have things going, but it's like I started earlier technically than what he did to do what he's doing. Now, I'm not trying to be a global speaker and sell hundreds of books like, or write hundreds of books like he is. So it's not even the same journey, first of all. But secondly, I'm like, you know what? I'm looking at a man who I do look up to and I've learned a lot from over the years, but he's 30 years older than me. And where was he when he was at that point, like late 30s, early 40s? He was pastoring churches and he was doing great stuff, but he didn't even have his business started yet at that point. So, I had to kind of reset my thinking of somebody even that's become a globally known figure. Where they were at my age is so different than where I am at my age. And I think, and we can do that with anybody's business is, it's like, don't compare yourself to somebody who's been at this for decades and think, well, I'm a failure because I'm not on those types of stages yet, or I'm not generating that kind of revenue yet. That's unfair to yourself to even think that. Accept the fact that you're on your own journey, own it,
and just focus on doing your best to grow on that journey. Right.
Right. And the other side of it too, going back to even the groups that you're in, there are times, and I had to discover this early on too, was, man, there are some people that are so far ahead that I can't even relate to them. So I need to actually find somebody who's 5 steps ahead instead of 25 steps ahead of me. And that was part of giving myself grace too, was don't compare yourself not only to these other figures, but also don't put yourself in situations that make you feel so small because you're around somebody that's really too big for you to be learning from or in the room with right now, because they don't even remember what it's like to be where you are right now.
Right. I remember specifically somebody that I followed for a long time and on business growth and development, and I learned so much from them. And then their business just took off like wildfire, and now they're like $1 billion corporation. And I'm like, I don't have those problems. Like
right.
The problems that you're relating to, where somebody literally came and offered you $1 billion for your business.
Right.
Those are not my problems. Those are not the things that I'm dealing with. And so I can no longer relate to the things that you're talking about. And I stopped listening to them because it was just like, the things you're talking about are no longer relevant to me. I mean, that's not what I'm working on. That's not what I'm dealing with. And so, yeah, it is just, and again, this grace thing, you just give yourself the grace to just be on your own journey. And this is what I'm doing, and this is where I'm going. And, like even the other day, I was, like I had a trainer at the beginning at the gym, then he left, and another trainer for a few years in the middle. And then the other trainer came back because then the other second trainer left. And then the other trainer came back, and we were even talking about it because I started working with him again, and we were just talking about it. And we were like, when I first started working with you, I was at the bottom of the hill. I was at square one. I had to start climbing this hill one step at a time, and it hasn't been easy, but I'm going. And he just looked at me and goes, David, you may not give yourself enough credit, but you are way, way a long ways away from the bottom of the hill now. You're
Yeah.
not even close anymore. And it wasn't because of anything big happening. It was a daily step of
Consistency, right?
progress, consistency of just keep going, keep going. He goes, no, you are a long ways from the bottom now.
Yeah.
He goes, and you have to remember everyone starts at the bottom.
Right.
Everyone starts. No one starts at halfway up the hill. It doesn't go that way. They all
Yeah.
start down here and they gradually work their way up. And you have to understand that as well in your own journey, in your own business, that when you're starting, it's okay not to know everything because you're not
Right.
expected to. Just start working and start doing the things that you need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just really important, folks. Just be easy on yourself. It's a balance, right? It's a balance because you don't want to get lazy on one hand. So you want to push yourself, but you also want to give yourself grace. And different people approach this differently. Like for me, I am terrible at celebrating my wins. I know that about myself. For me, I remember, David, when I first wrote my first book, I had a launch party. It was nice. But you know what I did the next day? I started writing my second book. I didn't even give myself time to I didn't give myself time to celebrate, to embrace that. And it was like I was on to the next project. And so I know that about myself, that I'm not a good celebrator when it comes to success. And so I have other people, come alongside sometimes go, that's so awesome. And I'm like, that's I don't give myself enough grace to even celebrate a lot of times. And other people have to kind of remind me of, Chris, you actually did something significant here. Don't overlook that. And so I need that. I mean, that's also part of the community side of this, of having people in your corner that are like, hold up, stop. Do you realize what you were just able to do? I mean, how many people are able to do that thing or whatever but as things get common to us, as things get normalized to us, there are people who envy. I was talking to somebody about this here today. There are people that envy where we are right now, even though we feel like we're not where we want to be, right? And so we have to be very careful not to overlook the fact that we have made progress. And that's part of giving yourself grace, of saying, hey, yeah, I may not be at my complete vision. I might have this monstrous vision that I want to accomplish in my life or my business. I'm not there yet, but I'm halfway up the hill, or I'm a quarter of the way up the hill, or wherever. And I need to celebrate that. I need to be excited about that, because that's been massive growth. Other people wish they could trade places with me right now because of what I've been able to do. That's not an ego thing. That's just a reality. Like everybody's on their own journey, like you said. And so I think that just reminding ourselves of that is so critically important. And so, folks, if we can help you with, with our Design Launch Grow program, part of what we do, besides training, besides coaching, is this community aspect of putting you in a room, with people that get your journey, that want to encourage you, that want to build your faith in yourself and in God, and in, your whole journey overall, so that you can keep taking those steps forward. And, when you're not giving yourself grace, we come alongside you and help you remember what steps have you taken, what progress have you experienced. So if you need that kind of community, if you don't have that, if yes, if you need coaching or training, we're here for you as well. But if you need that type of community that's going to help you with this mindset side of things, that's what Design Launch Grow is really built around, because we want you to be successful, because we believe that God has given you a purpose to really accomplish something in your life to help people that need you. So check out designlaunchgrow.com. We'd love to have you join the program so that we can come alongside you as your guides, as your friends, as your colleagues, to help you really take those next steps forward. So we look forward to seeing you there in the program, and we'll see you next time on next episode.